G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared. How you doing, mate?
Well, I'm alive.
Yeah.
My voice feels like crap, but yeah.
Yeah, he's very croaky today. I was saying he sounds like the guy from South Park with the... Alright, so we're going to compare the Ironclad now that the Q&A's been out. And we wanted to have a look at not just the Ironclads themselves, but the other ships that we believe that this tread on, because it kind of treads on a lot. And yeah, I don't know. Your thoughts on that, Algared?
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily it's not really treading on them. It's just competing, a competitor to. Is probably more accurate, rather than
just the way I see it. Like I think I said it on stream. It's like they're all lined up on a couch, and the Ironclad Chad just ran in and jumped and landed on everyone and lit across their knees, type of thing. So yeah.
Said, supper. Yep.
We haven't. Well, I'm just saying. Normally, a ship comes in and it probably competes with one, but to see two ships like this come in and they compete with so many, well, let's shoot over the browser and we'll show you what we're talking about. So, I've tried to divide it to the left and right, but quite honestly, we can go around. But most of them, I'd say, so if I kind of do a circle like that, they are the ones for the Assault, and just these three here are kind of for the normal Ironclad. We don't want to start, Aaron. I guess we'll start at the top and work our way around.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Hull C, same size class. Obviously, you get internal cargo on the Ironclad, but more cargo, but then external on the Hull C, which is an obvious choice. And I think the strengths there to both of them, Margaret. I don't know what your preference would possibly be there. I think you could kind of go either way depending on the circumstance.
Yeah, well, I was also looking, as we were looking at, so I was also looking at things like the components that face Ironers. And I know, unfortunately, guys, you have to use the matrix of errors, the
matrix of lies, yep.
The matrix of lies to actually get the components that are listed, because that's the only place you can actually get them. And if you go to WikiLinks or Wiki, where they've done that, they've actually taken them from the matrix of lies anyway.
Yeah.
So, but when you look at the matrix of lies, the Ironclad has 4 large shields. 4 large shields. That's a lot.
Yeah. So it's so this is kind of what I'm getting at when you're looking between the Hull C and the Ironclad, is it's rather quite tanky. And I think that's the real difference. Like you are, for me, the Ironclad speaks like it's an Ironclad, like a bank, essentially. It's like a flying bank or a flying Fort Knox, depending on how you want to interpret it, right? But I think that it's almost like, if you look at it from a piracy perspective, as most people say there's a piracy connotation to Drake, is it's like once they get the cargo, they want to protect it so you can't get it back, right? And I think there's a few things to speak that as well, like the fact that there's a turret on the inside of the hangar bay, or not the hangar bay, the cargo bay, I should say, because it's not a hangar bay. But yeah, you get my point, right? That's something different.
But even though you can see that being put to use for piracy, if you're doing valuable asset transport, having an internal turret is great if you're trying to stop borders.
Yeah.
Or having that extra armor is great if you're trying to ward off attackers. So yeah, you can see applications of it being used in piracy, but there are equal applications for it being used for legitimate, lawful.
Absolutely. But yeah, I was just trying to give an example. So yeah, again, if you were, we'll say it makes it harder for pirates to take it. Period. If it's an armored transport, and that's how I see it. Like that is what differentiates it from almost everything around the outside here. So if we go on to the Caterpillar here, like it scares a lot of people, because all we really have right now for the Caterpillar is the cargo modules, right? And as you rightly brought up yourself, you've got individual cargo modules, so you could technically have different atmospheres and climate controls. So that's one part of it, but I really think it probably more than any other ship today, this is the one that gets tread on probably the most, especially from the Ironclad, not the Assault. But we really need to know what those modules are now, because this thing is in dire straits, and people like myself and yourself, and I'm sure there's plenty of others out there that have held on to this thing since day dot, And now it just looks, it's like, did I make the wrong decision?
Yeah, is it worth hanging on to the Caterpillar because the cab is interchangeable. So you really what's the thing that the cat's got over the Ironclad? It's the trailer.
Yeah.
If the cab's the same on both or can be used on both, then the only difference between them is the big trailer you tug along, and it's the versatility versus size.
Yeah. So I'm just going to jump back up to the Valkyrie one up there. I forgot about that. So the Valkyrie does a lot of small vehicle transport. That's why this one's in there as well. And we know that you can do medium and small in the Ironclad, but you can't do the large. Well, you can get it in there if you can bring it in via the top, but you can't drive it out, right? So that also puts the Valkyrie in that thing, because now you can essentially put the vehicles that would go in that can go in this, and not only that, you can probably put more. I don't know, I'd have to kind of sit there and lay it out, but I'm pretty sure you could probably get close, at least 4, but I reckon you get close to 6 when you use Cyclones, Algared. You reckon into that one?
Probably.
Yeah.
And the difference is, yes, you can put more vehicles in the Ironclad than you could in the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is essentially a dropship, though. And sure, you can use the Ironclad for that dropship purpose because we've got plenty of room. You got 6 extra seats in the cab. You got the crew, etc. So there's plenty of space you could put crew or boarders. The big thing that I think redeems, I suppose, the Liberator from being absolutely smashed is the fact that it's a significantly smaller ship.
Okay, you mean the Valkyrie?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. No, absolutely. That is a saving grace there, absolutely. So the C2, obviously it can, the advantage it has over the normal Ironclad is it can do the bigger vehicles, but other than that, it literally is almost dead in every single way. I think the only other thing I can really think of is it is smaller. But generalistically, once you get up to that size, they are all going through the same size of jump point. So I guess it comes down to running costs. That would be the other thing. But again, the sheer amount of cargo, like this has got like 3 times as much cargo almost, not quite, but almost. And so again, when it's fortified, see where I'm going? I remember arguing with people when the Hercules came out. I said, looking at their track record, this is probably going to be the worst vehicle transport we get. And as time's gone on, I've kind of been proven right, but that's not to say I told you so. It's just that I've learned from the way they release these, they tend to almost do a worst to best approach.
Because they know that people will buy them. They know people will buy the worst one because they want that vehicle transport. The next one comes along, they'll buy that because it's an upgrade. It's better than. And the Liberator kind of did that. It could do ships and vehicles and have cargo as well. And then you get the Ironclad, and it does it in. I think almost trumps all over the Liberator.
Especially when it's doing twice as much. It's almost like, so if I took 2 Hercules and put there, right, you then have the Ironclad because you're doing 4 vehicles or as I said, almost 3 times as much cargo. But even then, right, it's fortified. You don't get that with this, right? Yeah. So and knowing the price difference too, that's the scary thing. Just to give an example, from the M2 to the Ironclad Assault is $15, and it was $5 when that CCU was $5 for a bit. So when you start to look at those two, it gets scary. Like, I cannot justify the M2 anymore unless you're going for like redundancy, as in having 2 ships and you're intending to lose one. That's the only kind of thing I can ever give anyone, and I mean that in a combat scenario. So let's move on to that then, because
just before you do, like, even if you exclude the I'm more or less excluding the Ironclad Assault and its repair module. Every ship, the Liberator, you can do hand repair. The Ironclad, you can do hand repair, but the Hercules, you can do hand repair. So all of them, you could do hand repair. So any repair option on those ships or vehicles is the same. When you move up to the Assault then wipes out all the others, but then it's competing with those ships that have that manufacturing or fabrication aspect. Okay.
That's probably the best. Well, we'll go into that when we go to the Crucible, because I think that's where it's going to really hit home. So for me, the M2, is really questionable now, especially from a value proposition. It just, I can't just it on a value. Like once the Ironclad Assault comes out, it may change a little bit then. But when there's only a $15 difference, I've been contacted probably. I've kind of lost count the number of messages. It's at least in the dozen of people that have said, "Hey, I jumped from an M2 to an Assault," right? And I can see why they did. At $15, you'd be kind of crazy not to. You're getting twice as much ship. The only thing that I could see people saying no is you really like Crusader over Drake, and that becomes down to personal preference then. But from a value proposition, I can't tell them not to.
In terms of cargo capacity, the Ironclad does seem to dwarf the Hercules. The big plus I think the Hercules still has is that forward and back on ramp. So if you've got vehicles in the Hercules, you can physically get them off a lot quicker because you can load them, offload them from the front and the back at the same time.
And then it comes around again on, you get more armor on the front of the ship from a combat perspective when it comes to the Ironclad, but you get more armor across the board. They both lose cargo because of their armor. Yeah.
But the fact that you can get the vehicles, if you're looking at offloading vehicles, if you can only offload from the front, the Ironclad's going to be on station longer offloading stuff, whereas the Hercules can offload it quick and then P-bolt.
They both don't have tractor beams, so they both, but you're right. Technically, from an unloading cargo perspective, the M2 has it, right? But again, if you're doing just vehicles, I think you're at about the same. Well, no, really, because technically you've only got two vehicles, so you could just go one out each side, couldn't you? Yeah, you're right in that perspective. So yeah.
Whereas even if you put two, even if it's only two vehicles in the Ironclad, you've still got to take them out the front, and you can't get there's going to be that.
That's a good point.
So there is that.
Yep, that's a good point. That's a point in its favour.
It's a minor point, when you're looking at everything else.
Well, when you got
when you look at less cargo and
when you got bullets flying past you, though, speed does matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can give you that. All right, let's move on to the Crucible because I think this is going to be. I want to talk about this because of the nature of now. They've literally said it's a fabricator. You could technically bring this in and use it from into base building and fabricating stuff as well. So not only can it repair vehicles, it could technically be used to repair ships if there was enough materials there, and depending on how they do the actual repair part. So if you can actually fabricate a wing as an example, and you had the patterns on you, you should be able to print that wing, and then even if you've got to carry it outside, you could then attach it to a ship, if that is in how they intended for it to work. And that literally I was put on board with how the Crucible is going to work.
And if you're looking at
I was going to say real quick, but going back to what you said about speed, obviously the Crucible would be better at it from a speed perspective.
Yeah. And if you're looking at it in terms of being able to repair as long as you've got the supplies, the fact that it's got a cavernous cargo hold should mean you could have a pile of supplies and resources to be able to do those types of repair aspects.
And you could cannibalize some of your carrying capacity to have less vehicles to keep their longevity up as well.
Yeah. So there is that, but I suppose it's if I'm looking at a ship that's got repair, there's apart from the actual dedicated repair ships, and the Crucible is the dedicated repair ship, along with, and then Vulcan's another one that's dedicated.
Well, we can bring that into this conversation as well, because I think it really treads on it quite a lot, because that's only drones. There's no fabrication on the Vulcan, and it does have two other things, which is obviously the repair, the refuel and rearm, which is kind of a bit more bespoke, but the repair functionality of the Vulcan, it truly does get trod on by this thing.
I think the Vulcan really comes into its own when it's rearming, refueling, and repairing fighters out in the field.
Yeah.
But if you've got something in your hangar, then...
And if something's in harm's way, like it can send a drone in and not be in harm's way. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if you've got something in your hangar, then if you've got ammo in your storage, you should be able to manhandle that ammo and reload it. Yeah. You should be. So I can remember Chris saying, or may have been Chris, but way back they were talking about if you've got missiles in your cargo bay, you could reload. If you've got an internal missile launcher like on the Mirs or the Connie, you could actually reload those in those launchers. Which added significant length to those, or versatility to those ships.
Yeah, so that's also why the Galaxy's up there, because that's more than likely going to have a base building module. It's probably going to completely outperform this thing, but it's also just to show you that it does touch on that. And I guess you could put other bigger ships in there, like other construction ships, but that's probably more on the same size of scale. And so that's probably the smallest one it treads on here. And then the Liberator. And quite honestly, again, carrying 4 vehicles over carrying 2, it does lean into the vehicle thing. Yeah, I don't know. Is there any kind of saving grace there for the Liberator now, Algared? I think the only thing is it's the versatility of being able to carry a bit of everything, but like you tend to want to be doing one, not both.
Well, against the standard Ironclad, yeah, like because the base Ironclad doesn't have any repair modules, so you're doing hand repair, so they're equal. The Liberator's got ship pad plus vehicle pad plus cargo. The Ironclads, although you could put a ship in there, it's basically one large pad. You're either doing vehicles, cargo, or ship. It's kind of that old choices matter type choice where the Liberator's a little bit more does everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, they tread on it. When you compare the Liberator to the Assault, though, then you've got that repair module, and that change that I think jacks the Ironclad up above the Liberator. So yeah.
So it is kind of interesting looking at the two of them. The Ironclad Assault, in my book, treads on more, and it's better than probably more of the things that it does tread on, and I think it will possibly be what do I call this? The more interesting variant, but I don't think it's going to be the most popular variant, and I think that's because more people would regularly use the Ironclad over the Assault. Like, and it's the same thing that comes back to the M2. Like, it is a vehicle-only transport type of thing. When are you using that? Well, you're using that in a combat landing engagement. It's the right tool for the right job type of thing. But it's such a niche. There's now other ships that do that. They literally have pictures of the Liberator, the M2, and the Ironclad all deploying tanks, and I just find that really interesting. Like that's such a niche thing. Like, I would not have thought they would have made 3 ships that do that.
4, because you've really got the Crucible that does that as well. Because
not yet in a combat environment. They haven't ever showed a picture of that. I'm just talking about purely pictures that they've presented to us.
But when they even developed the Crucible, they had the ramp for vehicles to come on and off, even before they even taught that. So
point taken, right? But the point I'm trying to make is the fact that the 3 that do that is quite excessive in my book. I thought maybe 2, but 3 is kind of nuts. And I would also say that it probably does it equal, if not better, than the M2, and the Liberator kind of drops off. So for anyone that's got an M2, to me, it's almost like a non-brainer because you're getting a better value ship. So that's my kind of takeaway with the Ironclad Assault. The M2 is kind of dead on a value proposition, and I just can't see enough to keep it around, especially when it's only $15 to upgrade. The only thing I've heard, and it came out of your mouth today, was the speed. Right? And at the end of the day, you've got enough armor there that you should be able to get all 4 of them out anyway. It's got, almost essentially 3 times as much cargo, not quite. But then also the repair facilities on top of that. It's really hard to pass up on that because the M2 does not have that.
Yeah. The other ship I just...
Even if you just take the repair facilities at $15, that's insane.
Yeah, $15 for a repair facility. That's a good bargain in anyone's language. Another ship that I just thought of that is also kind of gets a good comparison with is the 600i, because the rework, they show it being able to carry a Nova tank, or they talk about it being able to carry the Nova tank, so it can carry the big vehicles. And so
by that token, I can drop the Javelin, the Idris, and the Con in, a whole bunch of it. So no, I wouldn't count that. But quite honestly,
it's still a large ship. It's in that kind of.
It is, but it's not a vehicle transport. So yeah, I think it's a little bit too outside the frame. It's not a fair comparison because clearly the 600i is going to lose that when it comes to just vehicle transport.
Well, with the upgrade, and that all depends on the upgrade and the changes they make to it, and the better use of space, because that is a ship with so much wasted space.
Yeah, so and it's a similar thing here with the Ironclad because it is the only real true fortified transporter we've got. I think it is going to it kind of brings in another type of smuggling as well, like a fortified transport. We don't really have anything kind of like in that hallmark, so it is something new. The sheer amount of cargo and that it treads on these three is kind of nuts. And the fact that it's $450, like that's $120 on this,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's just over the top of this one as well. I don't remember the price of this off the top of my head. I really need to go look that up. That was 350, but I think it went up as well. So again, I think the only one that kind of comes out unscathed at the moment is the hull, and so that makes where this has come in very dangerous because it's just trod on two things and kind of this one's questionable, this one's kind of almost dead. This, you know what I mean? Like it just the only thing that this retains is the ability to carry two vehicles, and if you count that one over there, the assault, it is dead. You know, so it's just kind of scary how they've come in and they've trod on so many things. The obvious takeaway, if you try to look at this from a vanity perspective, though, is if Drake doesn't speak to you, then therefore you might instantly hate these. But if you're looking at them purely based on the numbers and functionality, they're really hard to pass up on. And I can see why a lot of people picked them up.
Yeah. The other thing, like, when you were talking smuggling, I wouldn't say the Ironclad Assault is a smuggler.
It's
certainly a blockade runner.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and I think that's really what you were getting at.
Yeah. It's similar to the Raelian, where the Raelian is an armored blockade runner, but this is like the next size up. And I'd argue the Raelian is far quicker at it than this is. Yeah.
I would hope that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just to let's see the A2. So I've got it. Is if I look at the buying options, actually it's not going to let me, so I'll go to upgrades.
What are you trying to look for?
Oh, just the price, just to confirm.
$750. It's $750 on the A2.
All right, so the A2 versus the
it's $300 difference.
$300 different.
Yeah.
Why would you go an A2 over?
I wanted the C2 price.
No.
I wanted the C2. I wanted the C2 price, not the A2.
That's okay. I'll still get that too, because.
But yeah, is there anything you kind of want to hear from people in the comments, Algared? I think we can wrap this up now. Once you get that price.
So this, the C2 is $400, and the M2 is $520. So the M2 is $520, the A2 is $750. So it's $400 for a C2.
It's $50 to get to an Ironclad.
Yeah, and for so much more ship. Yeah.
But you are losing the large vehicle well, you can technically do it, but you got to bring them up and over and put them into the hangar via the tractor beams. But that's it as well. You get tractor beams on this. You do not get tractor beams on this. So that makes this an in-space transporter. This is a ground-to-ground transporter.
Yeah. And you can see that just in the aerodynamics of it. Like, I think that's another big plus that the Hercules series
absolutely
gets. They will
the VTOL
atmosphere theoretically than the bricks.
I think we could probably give that to that's another plus for the M2 actually, is the VTOL. They're probably going to be both quicker getting in and out and unloading. So they've definitely got speed on their side. So let's give them as many positives as we possibly can. But still at $15, take the Ironclad and earn down to the M2. Like that seems like a no-brainer to me.
And certainly when I look at, if time to kill, 4 large shields on an Ironclad.
Yeah.
That's
not even counting the armor yet.
Yeah, not even counting armor. And if you're talking armored transport for the assault, that's 4 large shields plus armor. Whew. Yeah. That would be a hard nut.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to make these things like a flying safe room type of thing. So yeah. All right, Algared, is it anything you want to hear from people in the comments below? I kind of want to hear what you think we've said here. Is we're off the mark, we're on the mark. And I think the last thing I'll ask is, did you get an assault or a normal one, and why did you get one of, over the other? Because to me, I think the Ironclad is the more you would use it more. The Ironclad assault is, if I had an M2 and I was after that drop tip shove, that's the only time I'd go up to the assault for me, or a Liberator potentially as well. But again, it's technically cheaper than a Liberator. That's the scary thing. So you've got your choice there now. Do you want the vehicle one? By the way, I think we're getting a ship-only one. at
Yeah, I
some
wouldn't be
point.
surprised.
Makes a lot of sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
With what I said about how they kind of go from worst to best. One that does everything, one that only does the ground vehicles, one that does the ships. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Right,
and,
Algared.
and one that's smaller than an Idris or Kraken is what we're talking about in that regard. Because
yeah. So is there anything you wanted to hear in the comments?
Well, do you think we missed anything? Are we off the ball? Yeah. So, what do you think? Have you bought one over another? Have you passed on them?
Yeah.
Like at the moment, I've passed on them because I've passed on everything because I'm saving and spending money for CitizenCon rather than ships, and I'll look at getting the ships in a pack later on, but that's going to be way down the track.
Yeah. All right, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went that extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. With that, he's been Algared.
And he's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.